You didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city sand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park. Fans drift in jerseys, legacy bold. The Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city sand lights to the skyline gleams, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channels and on X. And we are ready for some day baseball yet again as the Mets look to sweep the Miami Marlins and sweep their first homestand of the year. And we're going to talk all about it and how the Mets are going to do that today. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Love day baseball. As you all know, it is awesome. I absolutely adore it. I can't get enough of it. So looking for a sweep, bring the brooms out, all that fun stuff. We're going to be here to assess the lineup, the pitching matchup, and all that in between. Smash the thumbs up as well. I got the giveaway still going. Comment under my community tab on my channel, the score and outcome prediction. And if you get it correct, you're getting sent a brand new Mets beanie. So let's get into it.
There you go, guys. So make sure you give your prediction so you can try to win that Mets beanie. And listen, guys, this team has not been perfect. They haven't been great. The offense has been up and down. They're still leaving a ton of men left on base. But when it matters the most, when they need that run, that insurance run, they seem to get it. They seem to pull out the victories. It's basically all close games. I think it's 2 games that haven't been determined in more than 2 runs out of our 11 games. So the Mets haven't been playing close games, and they've been finding ways to win. That's why the record is 8-3. That's why they're going for the sweep. That's why they're going for the homestand sweep today with Max Meyer on the mound for the Marlins and Tyler McGill for the Mets. So listen, all they got to do is find a way to win. It's just that simple. I don't care how they do it. I don't care if Tyler McGill pitches 6 innings, 0 runs, and the bullpen shuts him down. That would be great. Right? If the Mets win 10-9, are we going to complain? No, it's a W. So, Chris, the way the Mets played yesterday with the 10 strikeouts from Clay Holmes, yeah, he kind of didn't have he wasn't perfect, right? He did give up 4 runs, technically 2. Brosman gave up the other 2, but Holmes inherited those runs or put those runners on for him. What do the Mets have to do today that compared to the first game against the Marlins and yesterday's game, what do you want them to see them clean up a little bit just to make it like a ho-hum victory so we don't have to, we can put our feet up and enjoy the game while we win?
Limit the walks and try to hit the opposite field gap. I mean, Brandon Nimmo got the job done as well. Using the opposite field, that was refreshing to see after he struggled mightily in the first game. And yeah, I think that's really what it is. And we'll talk about the lineup here in just a second. The one thing that I'm watching out for, especially with Brett Beatty, can he at least get a fly ball in the air in the outfield? That's all that I'm watching out for and all that I'm hoping for out of Brett Beatty, because it's just been ground ball, strikeout, ground ball. It's just exhausting to see. But the command, Tyler McGill, I think that if he has this command today, the Mets are going to be in really good shape, because I think that this offense is slowly starting to come around. And It's just the little things, man, the little mental mistakes that the Mets have been making so far that have been the difference, and especially in that first series, right? We could have been talking about a series win and the Mets winning every single series of this season thus far, but some of those little mental mistakes that kind of gave the edge to Houston that they didn't make is what I want to see. So, and that goes across the board. You can't exactly pinpoint that to any given player, any given thing in the facet of baseball. I mean, it can be as simple as Luis Angel Acuna being, not focused in on the on deck spot and, letting Jose Siri know where to slide. It could be Clay Holmes's command issues. It could be a plethora of things, right? And so I think collectively, this team objectively still hasn't clicked just yet. I think the pitching has been really just carrying the offense, but I think the offense, we're starting to see some signs that they are putting together more consecutive, better at bats. And that's what matters. That's what counts, especially we're talking about an early season, just watching that progression. It's all about progression. Yes, I'm not expecting the Mets to put up, 5, 6, 7 runs every single game. It's about the process and better at bats. So I'm continuously watching that out for that. And what's more interesting as well is that Mark Vientos is back in the 6th spot as well instead of the 5 spot. So that makes sense, Rob. I guess just
Yeah,
watching that progression from every facet of the game, I think that's what I'm watching out for.
sure. I mean, the best part about this team right now in the first 11 games of the season is that they're winning. They can win a 2-1 game. They can win a 6-5 game until the Mets blew it open late in the game, like they did yesterday. So they can win high scoring games and they can win low scoring games, and that's not easy to do. Usually, it's one or the other, and usually the Mets have a hard time winning low scoring games. That's been their issue even last year, going back years. And to see them win games as close as a 1-run victory or a 2-run victory or a 2-run deficit, whatever it might be, they find ways to win those games. And in the high scoring games like yesterday, where that 3-run homer made it really interesting, and then Pete Alonso broke it open, and then it was a home victory from that point on. But yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? It doesn't matter if it's a low scoring game or a high scoring game. They're still finding ways to win, even when they leave 10 men left on base yesterday. They still, out of the 22 that I think it was 19 or 20 that were on base, something like that. It was like 18 or something like that. They obviously got in a lot of those runs. So they obviously, because they got 10 runs. So, they're leaving a lot on, but they're doing just enough to win ball games. And we only really faced one really good team, and I think the Astros are better than people think they are, because I think some people are kind of putting them on the lower end a little bit. Toronto, I don't think Toronto's very good. I think I'm not sure if I like them at all. But to be fair,
I think Toronto's decent.
because we can't go by this year yet, right? Because it's only 2 weeks into the season. You're going by last year. They won 75 games last year. The Astros, they made the playoffs last year, and we seen them firsthand. When you make a mistake, they will make you pay. And again, the difference between the Marlins and the Astros is that the Marlins don't make you pay for that mistake more often than not. But again, you take the wins how you can. You got to beat these teams. This is how you get to 90 plus wins, by beating the lower tier of teams the way the Mets have it. They only lost once out of the first 5 games. So
Right. Well, and this is exactly the difference that you see right now. I mean, objectively, like you said, the Mets haven't really been playing the best of competition. I mean, the Marlins twice, right? The Blue Jays, I think, are a good team, and it's good that the Mets swept them. But, they have their issues as well. And the Astros are a pretty solid team. I'm not discrediting the Astros whatsoever. But you take a look at an organization like the Atlanta Braves, it's kind of the 180. They've been facing the gauntlet, so far. And that's produced, a 2-8 record for them. And, the same type of games and the same type of competition is exactly what the Mets are going to have to face in June, and it's kind of be flip flop there. So this is the MLB scheduling, right? This is how it goes, and I'd like to. I'm kind of surprised. Actually, I'm not surprised that the MLB scheduling team, whoever consists of that team, is making it very hard in June, knowing the Mets' June struggles. So that's kind of funny within itself. But this is a different team. This team, there's no excuses for this team at the moment. We've been saying it time and time again before this season started. The schedule is what it is. The Mets can't change that. You got to go out there, do the job, and compete on all cylinders to beat these lowly teams, and then ride that high So you can buy yourself a couple of more mistakes and afford a couple more mistakes later on in the season. So I'm happy and I'm very satisfied that it's an 8-3 start to the season. We could be very well talking about a 10-1 team right now as well if things turned a little bit of a different way in that, I guess game in Houston, 2 games in Houston, and that Marlins game with Kodai Senga on the mound where Lindor made a couple errors as well. But again, the Mets have been playing really solid baseball. So to dive into the X's and O's of the strength of schedule, et cetera, is just absurd. I'm worried about the production on the field. I'm sure that's what the players are worried about. And I think that I'm starting to see a little bit more fundamental baseball, which is most important.
Yeah, and when it comes to the offense, to try to get your foot in, I mean, what team better to do it than the Marlins, right? If you're trying to figure things out offensively, do it against the Marlins because, again, when I'm not saying that the A's or the Athletics are good or anything like that, but who we play next, and then Minnesota, it's they're not great teams. Obviously Minnesota's a tad bit better, but not that good. So these are the teams you got to feast on right now, and the offense looks like it's coming along. The pitching is still trucking along, doing extremely well. Take full advantage of this April. I talked about it before the season started, saying that we have one of the easiest schedules in April. You got to take advantage of it because when you get to a tougher month, May's a decently tough month, but June is just insane how tough it is. If you look at the schedule, that's a situation where you're like, all right, the Mets are a good team. They're probably going to win a couple of series. They're going to lose a couple of series. If you can get out of June in a 500 month, but you have an April and May that's between about 6 to 8 or 6 to 10 games over 500, you're not going to hurt that much because you're going to stay exactly where you are, and you're already 3 months into the season, and you're between 5 to 10 games over 500, and that's a good spot to be in because let's be honest, the NL East right now, the Braves have a lot of work to do, and they're kind of somewhat like the Mets last year where they just couldn't get out of their own way. But we know the Braves can jump up at any moment. So the Mets got to continue to take care of business against the lower tier teams. And so far they have done that. And that's a great sign. So Brett Beatty, he's in the lineup again. I know this is everybody's favorite topic. And I know Ken was so excited that Brett Beatty was in the lineup today because, I mean, why not hit another ground ball? I mean, he would be MVP if it was a ground ball MVP. Like he would be the master. Like they would say, we'll pay you to teach others how to do it. That's how bad he's been with the ground balls. It's kind of sad. I still believe, Chris, that the reason why Brett Beatty is still getting more opportunities, I still think there's something going on with Luisangel Acuna and the organization. They don't like something, and you talked about it the other day when he was in the batter's box, not focusing on the play in hand, trying to guide the runner that's coming around third, where to slide or stand up or which side of the plate to slide on. And that's focus. That's a player not focusing on the game and on the play at hand. And it might not be the biggest deal because it didn't affect the play at all. But like you said, Jose Siri, what did he do? He pinch ran for Mark Vientos. If it was flipped, like you said yesterday, guess what? Mark Vientos might have been out at the plate, and everybody would have been like, oh, Vientos is slow. But it could have been a bang-bang play, and depending on where he slid or didn't slide, that's up to the guy who's in the batter's box to do that. I still believe they don't like his focus while he's not playing. And again, you also have to prove that you belong, and you got to show something even when you're not playing. Like I know Beatty sucks, but when he's on the bench, he's on the top step, he's rooting on his guys, he's engaged in the game. I know that's not making him a better player, but the players, your teammates see that, your manager, your coaches see that. And I do wonder if Acuna, when he's not playing, just doesn't show that enthusiasm, for, I don't know. There's something there because it just doesn't make sense to me. At this point, Beatty does not deserve to be in the lineup as much as he has. I'm not saying Acuna does, but we seen Acuna have his flashes last year in 14 games, right? It's not a whole season. He's been just as bad at the plate. He swings at everything, but again, like you said, I agree with you. I rather him swing the. I rather have a guy swing the bat, and and try to hit the ball in the air or try to do something. We know he's better defensively. The speed plays a big role as well. I just feel like Acuna is kind of pushing himself away, and it doesn't matter what Brett Beatty does, and the Mets are going to still put him in there. I feel like that's the case because it doesn't make any sense for him to be in a lineup.
Yeah, I don't know. I just sent you a graphic over there on X too. I'm not sure if there's any way for you to display that, but if you take a look at Brett Beatty and the ground ball rate as he's progressed throughout his career, it's just been getting worse and worse and worse. The first couple of games that he's appeared in his 2025 season, he's grounded out 60% of the time. 60% of the time. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And I don't know, I hear what you're saying in terms of, the intangibles and the little things of being locked into the game. And maybe that's the difference in terms of why Brett Beatty is getting this continuous run, even despite his offensive struggles. But, I just can't fathom how you have a major leaguer continuously not being able to hit the baseball out of the infield, and he continuously finds his way into the lineup. And there's still some people out there that somehow in this Mets fan base believe in Brett Beatty, and I think that takes a lot of discipline and a lot of patience to still believe in this guy when he's shown you over a pretty large sample size, because I guess the other years and the other seasons that we've seen Brett Beatty in the at-bats just don't matter anymore. He's starting from fresh, and we only have 30 plus at-bats, to work off of in 2025 so far. I don't really know exactly how you justify that, but you know what? It doesn't really matter because there's not really much production to be had offensively from either of these guys, like you just mentioned. I do think that the speed and the defense is just overall better with Acuna, but how often you get to see that in today's, so in this season so far. And look, there it is. This is exactly from his Savant page. Look at the ground ball rate. It's just steadily increasing and increasing. I mean, 2022, he played 11 games, 13 games before he went down. So that's not really something that we're going to look at. But, 2023, 2024, and 2025, 60% is just brutal. In his career so far, he has a 52.4% ground ball rate. The MLB average is 44.4%. That may not seem like a lot. That's 8% above league average, but that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit when you're taking a look at, the averages of it all. So it's not good. It's not good. And so I really wanted people to just see that. Again, this is all public information. You can go on his Baseball Savant page and see this, right? See this breakdown. But yeah, maybe I'm just going to go under the assumption that Carlos Mendoza is using a randomizer to just see who's playing second base on any given day. Because honestly, with the choices that you have at this point, with the lack of production, you might as well use a randomizer because it's probably going to be the same result, the same end result. But what's more frustrating to me is that given how bad Brett Beatty has been, it's been a little bit more frustrating that Luis Angel Acuna hasn't been able to make that statement that he is above and beyond a better option to play every day, because it doesn't take that much to beat out Brett Beatty with what he's producing. And so it's also kind of concerning that Luis Angel Acuna has not shown Carlos Mendoza that, hey, listen, I'm clearly the better guy. Whether there's a lefty or righty on the mound, give me the opportunity, give me the start. And so that's on him, and that's on him at the end of the day. So it's beyond my comprehension of how to try to figure this out at this point.
Yeah, Acuna can think he's a better player all he wants. Again, it's clear what the Mets organization is trying to do. They're trying to push Luis Angel Acuna. I really think they're trying to spark a fire under his ass, and why Beatty keeps on playing. Because again, it really doesn't make any sense. But I don't think they just want to give Acuna the job. You don't deserve it, so you're not going to get it. You got to show us something. And again, I don't know what it is, but I said this since the offseason. There's something going on with Luis Angel Acuna, and something the organization and the coaches don't like. And again, that might be something that he's young. He's still learning. He is very young. So they're trying to find something to light him, even getting Lindor to speak up publicly, the leader of the team, about Acuna. Again, it wasn't, mean-spirited or anything like that. It was just him just saying, listen, you also got to prove it. You also got to show it. You also got to be focused. You can't be lackadaisical. You can't be lazy. That's something that, we might not see every single day, but they see it in the clubhouse, on the bench, what you're doing during, drills. Like I was in Houston, I saw Acuna, I saw Lindor, and I saw Beatty. Chris, I sent you a picture of them taking ground balls at shortstop and second base. Like they were, and again, that was opening day. The next 2 days, all I saw was Brett Beatty at second base, not Luis Acuna with Lindor. So there's a lot of things that I think that we don't know about that the team does, that the coaches do. And again, maybe it's just hyperbole, and it's not really something that really is the driving force for Brett Beatty playing over Acuna again. I just feel like it has to be something. But again, Beatty's getting so many opportunities. All of us want him to succeed because all that does is help the Mets win. And that's why it's frustrating. It's frustrating that Acuna is not taking advantage of the terrible play by Brett Beatty, because Acuna, hitting wise, is basically they both have 2 hits. So it's nothing special. Acuna has a couple of stolen bases, and that's basically it. Acuna doesn't walk. Beatty doesn't walk. So it's like, pick your poison. And Jeff McNeil, hurry back, please. Like, we need a little bit of something, a little bit of production from second base. But what else do you see in the lineup, Chris, when it comes to we seen this lineup a couple of days ago. I think it was the first game against the Marlins where Marte batting 5, Vientos 6. Vientos is still getting his walks, but still waiting for that first home run. I think that confidence level will raise up once he gets that home run. And Brandon Nimmo, again, cleaning up.
Yeah. The first thing that I see is that we have to keep tradition alive. There's 2 DHs in our lineup right now. So there's Mark Vientos and Starling Marte. That's a little, a little bit of another typo there that Steven
Hey,
pointed out in the
we're
chat.
doing it. And this is all on accident, guys. We are not doing this on purpose. I promise you.
We might as well start doing it on purpose, though, because whenever we make typos, the Mets win. So we might as well keep that tradition alive.
Yeah, exactly. I just got home from work, and I did it really quickly. So it is what
you know what? To go to your point, because you've been also stressing this, it's like the hot hand kind of plays. And I know that Jesse Winker had a game, against the Blue Jays in particular, that he kind of won the Mets the game, or at least kept them in the ball game with three extra base hits. But Starling Marte coming off of a multi-hit game yesterday, couple RBIs. I mean, keep the hot hand going with the DH in the 5 spot. I kind of like to see that play. I think it's just only a matter of time until, Brandon Nimmo comes alive. I think that if he, and it's so funny that we, said it in the pregame, the best version of a lot of Mets hitters, right? Pete Alonso especially, but definitely Brandon Nimmo, is that if they're going the opposite field and using all fields and pulling the baseball when the opportunity arises and that situation comes up, then they're at their best. And what do you know? Brandon Nimmo finally gets going with an opposite field double for 2 RBIs. And it's just like, it's not rocket science at the end of the day. If it's an outside pitch, you go the other way and you take the base hits there, because more often than not, especially if you're a lefty, they're probably shading you to the pull side anyways, with the way that a lefty's like biomechanics work with the swing. And if you're a lefty that can hit to the opposite field, you are going to have such great success. And I think that's what Brandon Nimmo has to prioritize. I really do. So I hope that we can continue to see that. But also Tyrone Taylor's also playing a very good center field defensively, and he's also producing with the bat. And I like to see him continuously in there because, no matter how you shake it, Jose Siri, now you're talking about, pick your poison with who you want to pinch run. Jose Siri versus Luis Angel Acuna, you got speed any which way you cut it. And that's awesome to have on the bench. And so that gives Carlos Mendoza a lot of opportunities late in the ball game. If it's close and he needs to make those substitutions, then he can definitely do so. I don't know what's going on with Luis Torrens. I don't really know what's going on with Luis Torrens. Apparently, he went for an MRI that was clean, but he's just not right enough, not healthy enough. The forearm doesn't feel good enough to start, but it's good that I don't think he's going to be on the IL after the clean MRI. I think that's something that the Mets are just going to kind of wait and see. On a day-by-day basis. I know we were talking about that in the pregame yesterday as well, but I like this lineup. I mean, really, the bottom of the order is going to be hit or miss. I think Hayden Sanger is definitely putting together more competitive at-bats, especially more so than Brett Beatty. I mean, really, Hayden Sanger with the bat has been a pleasant surprise. I don't know. I don't want to read too much into it, but Brett Beatty in the 7 hole, I mean, he's been batting consistently in the 8 hole. I'm kind of curious of what the rhyme or reason is to moving him up one spot. I mean, I guess you have lefty. See, that's what doesn't make sense to me. That's
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm still trying to figure it out one out myself because it really doesn't make sense. That's why I'm like it was confusing to me a little bit. Like I don't understand why. But again, I don't know.
I don't think it matters in the grand scheme of things, really, Rob. I don't think it matters. One
Yeah,
spot versus
you
the
know what?
other.
Taylor, at least Taylor 7. Like Taylor has been better. Shoot, I
Right.
even see Sanger. And you know, we talking about carrying 3 catches. Screw that. Send Betty down, put Sanger at second base. He probably would be better. Like it's crazy. Like I don't know. It's something I'm telling you. Beatty got naked pictures of somebody. He's got somebody over the table. I tell you that. Because it just doesn't make sense. But again, listen, it's not like Acuna's hitting the ball all over the place. I think we would be more upset if he was and not playing. But again, somebody step up. Like that's what we're asking for. And you know, you would never think we won 6 in a row and we're 8-3. It's just because they're winning. I think Mendoza's trying to get somebody to step up. And I know Beatty's been in the lineup more often than not. And we all know they like Beatty. I mean, that's clear. They're trying to get him going by any means necessary. And I still believe they're going to choose a Beatty over Acuna when McNeil comes back, only because I mean the signs are telling you that Acuna is barely playing, like he's barely playing. Beatty seems like he's in the game almost every day, and Acuna comes in late in the ball game for pinch runner, defensive replacement, maybe a pinch hit appearance late in the game when there's a lefty on the mound. Other than that, Beatty's been in the lineup, so it's clear what they're trying to do here. It's just it's not working. You know, luckily everything we're getting those wins despite Beatty and Acuna and the bottom of the order for the most part. But look, just win today, and we'll talk about that again tomorrow. That's the only thing I can think
Yeah.
of.
And Ken is asking in the chat, he's saying, Rob, why would them winning be a factor in your mind? I think it's
I
not
don't
only
know.
the winning aspect that gives Carlos Mendoza a little bit more confidence to maybe try something new at the bottom of the order. It's like, what can really go wrong? Because you really haven't had that much production anyway. So the only way to go is just for them to go up, you know, and trying different combinations. And I also think that Carlos Mendoza is noticing the increase in more quality productive at bats from the top of the order. And so maybe that gives him a lot more confidence to go ahead and put, you know, Brett Beatty up a spot just to see how that works. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of different factors, not just winning, that the rest of the lineup, maybe with them getting going, Carlos Mendoza's like, screw it. We're going to get runs no matter what from the top of the lineup. Let's just see if this combination works on this given day before we have the mainstays come back, especially a guy like Jeff McNeil, who's going to be manning second base. So I don't think, you know, unless Carlos Mendoza, and I hate to say this because it's like there should be a rhyme or reason to make a lot of decisions as a baseball manager. But when you have this type of bottom of the order, especially the second base, you know, the second base tandem with Brett Beatty, there may not be a rhyme or reason. It's just kind of like throwing something at the wall and seeing what sticks, maybe, so to speak. So I'd be curious to see if any reporter asked Carlos Mendoza before the game about the decision, but I haven't seen anything on that just yet. So
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I'm I'm kind of speechless at this point, only because you know, like they're winning, and it's an odd situation to me, to be quite honest with you. I don't know if you agree, Chris, but you know, nobody would ever say they don't deserve to be 8-3 because you find a way to win a ball game, regardless of how it happens. You're 8-3. Who cares? But the the runners in scoring position, the runners left on base, it's a huge number. It's not pretty. You know, I still think they're batting under 200 with runners on base. I believe overall their batting average is just over 200, just overall.
the only reason why, and sorry not to cut you
Yeah,
off, the only
no.
reason why, because I have a video coming out about it either later tonight or tomorrow, depending on when I release it. But the only reason why their number is as high as that is because of one guy in this lineup, and I think we all know who that is.
Well,
Pete
yeah.
Alonso. It's Pete Alonso, by the way.
Well, that's the thing. That's why it's an odd situation because we're 8-3, and yeah, and again, it's one guy that's really doing almost everything at this point. But that has to change. I know guys have been looking a little bit better. Lindor has gotten 4 hits in 4 straight games. Soto's getting a couple hits. And I mean, he on base again for every game this season. And Nimmo's starting to pick up a tad. But other than that, it's still really bad. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it's around 50 to 60 guys left on base in total, maybe even a little bit more. That's a lot of guys for 11. So that means we get on base. That hasn't been the problem, regardless if it's a walk or a hit. They're getting on base. They're just not getting them home enough. I mean, to be honest with you, if we want to be fair or just think outside the box a little bit, the Mets should be 10-1. Like I think they should have won it. I think they should have won the series in Houston. I don't think they should have swept, but at least 2 games, and they should have won that Marlins game. So I feel like they could be better, and I guess that's a great sign. And we all know they could be better, but sometimes you got to take a step back. Know they're 8-3. We all love that fact because they're still finding ways to win despite the struggles of the offense so far, except for again Pete Alonso. But I know you said they're gonna. You believe they're gonna break out of it fairly soon. There's signs of it, but how long can we wait until the pitching, as we said earlier, right? They did give up 5 runs yesterday. Until the pitching starts to give up a little bit of runs, and the offense don't pick up the slack. Like, how long do we wait until we start not panicking, but being a little bit worried that the lineup hasn't clicked on all cylinders yet?
Until the pitching produces a game like yesterday consistently, really. We'll see if that's a one-off, but I think that it's going to be very evident when you see the decline in pitching if it ever gets here. Hopefully, it delays itself by a couple months, and we're talking about an offense that has plenty of time to figure it out. But we'll know. It's going to be very obvious when we get to that point. By the way, Lindor has a 7-game hit streak, 5-game hit streak with a hit in the first at bat of the game, being the leadoff. So he's turning it around. I mean, through and through. By the way, does anyone want to guess what Pete Alonso is hitting with runners in scoring position? I mean, it's been so abysmal for the New York Mets in general, in the first 11 games. Anyone want to guess what his batting average is with runners in scoring position is? Let alone the OPS. It's beautiful, by the way. It's a beautiful number.
Oh, I bet it is. Let's see if anybody.
And no, that's his overall batting average. I'll just tell you all. It's over 300 for sure. No, Mike, it's not. No, it's not in the 400s. It's still in the 300s. But it's a pretty good number. And yeah, he's batting 357 with runners in scoring position. And I think all 3 of his home runs, according to Baseball Reference, have come with runners in scoring position. So, you know what I mean? Like last year, he had 7 home runs with runners in scoring position total, only 7. And so through the first 11 games, he has 3 in that situation. You're looking at a very brand new, different version of Pete Alonso that we haven't seen over the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, what a difference. I mean, when you only have 7 home runs or runners in scoring position out of the 34 you hit, that's what, 26, doing quick math here, 26 home runs that were basically solo home runs, maybe one man on base, not in scoring position, or runners on base. Like that's a huge number. And he already cut that in half in 11 games, almost in half in 11 games. So look, that's what we need from him, right? We know it was in Pete Alonso. We've seen him do it in 2022. We've seen him do it in 2019. It was the other years where the numbers look nice. And that's why when people only look at the numbers just on paper, but don't really dig deep, and we all know Chris did a great job on that video last year on the entirety of Pete Alonso's numbers, and took a deep dive into his numbers and why the numbers were, you look at his numbers saying, oh, it's a good season, the normal numbers. Then when you really dig deep and you watch it every day, you realize that he struggled a lot last year, and he's not doing that this year. And again, we talked about the approach in spring training, and he took that into the season, which is great. Like, that ball that he hit in the gap yesterday, I mean, that ball was a shot. But you know what? Easily, how many times did we see him roll over on that ball and hit into a double play, or miss that pitch, or just take that pitch, let alone swing at it? He took that pitch a lot last year. This year he's driving the ball. He's not trying to do too much. He's not overswinging at all, which is a great sign. He's strong enough where he gets a good part of the bat on the ball. The ball's over the wall. So that's the beauty of Pete Alonso when he's on his game, because that's how good he can be. Now, again, let's see when he gets into a little slump, because, again, baseball players get into slumps. It won't be a shock when he does. Everybody gets in those slumps. Will it get into his head? Will he, good players, really good players jump out of it? I'm not saying in a game or two, but let's say a week. You have about 20 at bats where he's like 1 for 19, 2 for 20. And can he bounce back and get back and get red hot again? Because that's when Pete Alonso has a great season, like 2022, he didn't have prolonged slumps. And right now, I'm not sure if he's going to be in a very, very low slump for a while. I think he's going to be able to get out of it because he just seems comfortable. He doesn't seem like he's squeezing a bat as tight as he was last year. He was very jumpy at the plate. Now he just looks calm. Maybe it's him having a baby, and it just calmed him down. And, he's a dad now. He's a big boy now. Or, he just figured out that, hey, I was trying to do too much last year, and I don't need to because I am that good. And I think that's where he's at right now.
He's locked in. I mean, he's just locked in defensively, offensively, every facet of the game. He's been absolutely tremendous, and the Mets offense has needed every single bit of it so far to produce these 8 wins, right? Juan Soto, even though it looks like he's struggling a little bit to find his comfort zone, up there, he's still getting on base, and he's still doing the job. Both him and Lindor are both doing the job to get Alonso these opportunities in which he's been able to catch in. And so that's what's been really, impressive about that. And he's got to be licking his chops. I mean, we can't ignore the fact that Vlad Jr. is now going to be off the market next offseason, and he's licking his chops. He's like, listen, I want that long-term deal. And if he was asking for 200 plus last year, he's going to be asking for the same figure again, especially if he keeps this production up. And the Mets are going to have to, they're going to have to make a decision, pay it or not. And, if they don't, you're going to have to rely on a guy like Ryan Clifford, when you have Juan Soto walking into the door. So it's going to be a very tough decision. Yeah. And I think that Pete Alonso is going to leave this season off to the point where he is going to not allow the Mets to play hardball with him this winter. I think that's his ultimate objective. So we'll see how it plays out.
Was it the Mets playing hardball, or was it Alonso looking for $200 million off a bad season and nobody was trying to go after him? Everybody went for every other first baseman except for him.
I mean, you can argue both sides. You can argue that is hardball at the end of the day, but yeah, I think it was it just wasn't the most efficient process that we've seen from a free agent.
Yeah, I know it's very early, and we shouldn't be bringing up the contract, but I don't think the Mets are going to give him $200 million. I truly don't believe that. But again, if they do, I'm not going to say, oh my God, it's not my money, but I would be shocked if they do that. But again, it still determines, they might trade some of these guys that we're talking about at the deadline. Clifford could be on his way out if we need somebody big to help this team. But any final thoughts when it comes? People are bringing up about Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo in the cleanup spot again. I understand everybody's frustration with him in a cleanup spot, but me and Chris talked about this a couple of times already. Brandon Nimmo's best spot in the lineup is leadoff and the 2 spot. You're not moving those 2 guys. I know some of us would move Juan Soto, but Mendoza's been firm of not moving Juan Soto out of the 2 hole, and we know we're not moving Lindor out of the cleanup, the leadoff spot. So where are you going to put Brandon Nimmo? Maybe you can put him 5th. I think he did it once this year. I think he did it in the beginning of the first game of the year. After that, he's been basically cleanup almost every game, and you're not putting them 6 or lower. So there's nowhere to really put him. Unfortunately, Brandon Nimmo's in this little, maze of nowhere to put you in the lineup except cleanup. Like, unless you're going to, put Soto 3, Alonso 4 because Alonso's hitting like crazy and put him in that prime run producing spot. But Pete Alonso's been so good in the 3 spot, you don't want to move him either. Like that's the thing. Like I don't want to move Pete Alonso right now. Like why mess with it? We're winning ball games while the 1-2-3 has been the same. So I don't want to mess with it. Nimmo's just got to play better. Like, I mean, I think it's just that simple, Chris. He's got to start playing better. He's still overswinging. He just doesn't look like Brandon Nimmo, and it's frustrating, but I don't know what else we can do except hope Brandon Nimmo figures it out.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that Carlos Mendoza is a little bit handcuffed in terms of what he can do with the lineup. I mean, he could always do whatever he wants with the lineup, but there's no way you're batting Brandon Nimmo sixth or seventh. You know what I mean? And I think that this is largely due to the fact that Vientos also hasn't turned it around, because then you can make the case that you can bat him clean up and have Brandon Nimmo 5 in the worst case scenario. But then you're talking about righty lefty instead of righty lefty righty, which Mendoza clearly seems to be a proponent of. So I think it's a moot point at this point. I think that we're going to see Brandon Nimmo turn it around. I have confidence in him, and that could just be a cliche saying that's just kind of a random thought. Nothing that I've seen from Brandon Nimmo gives me the indication that he's going to turn it around. It's just like, let's just hope that he does, because, the way that the top 3 are rolling right now, even if just one of Nimmo or Vientos come around consistently, let alone both of them, then you're talking about, even more production, and you're going to be seeing more consistent games offensively in terms of what we just saw yesterday, putting up 10 runs. So the only other thing that I have outside of that is just, talking about the pitching matchup. Tyler McGill has been very impressive, and he's been impressive in his first couple of starts while only really throwing 3 pitches, right? And he's thrown the curveball, I guess 11% of the time, which is his 4th pitch. But, the curveball has been really successful for him in those 11 times that he's thrown it. So maybe he throws a little bit more in this outing, but it seems like he's comfortable with his other, mix of pitches. I think the sinker's there, the 4-seam fastball, and the sweeper, maybe, I think it is. But what's also interesting, and Tyler McGill has been fantastic. I hope that he's able to carry those 2 starts with him into this start and keep the Mets in the ball game. It's all about command. It's not about stuff with Tyler McGill. I mean, he's got a lot of movement. He throws pretty hard. I mean, 95, 96. So that's what's working for him. But it's just about, can he keep that command? It's like 180 of Clay Holmes, who doesn't have his command, and he gets some trouble early. But Max Meyer is kind of an interesting pitcher, because typically, unless you're facing a guy like Beozo that the Mets saw the other night, you'll see pitchers try to establish counts with their fastball, which is what Clay Holmes is trying to do yesterday with his sinker, right? But Max Meyer, I was looking at a Savant page and the pitch distribution of it all. He is a predominant sweeper, he has the sweeper as his predominant pitch. So expect to see a lot of that movement down and out to the right-handed hitters. And again, you're talking about, if he's sharp with it, then you're going to have to take that ball the opposite way, or else you're just going to keep rolling over baseballs. But if he's not, then you have the opportunity to get a lot of traffic on the bases via the walk. Let's say if a guy like Pete Alonso continues to lay off of that pitch and not get over anxious. So, I think that the Mets lineup is going to have to get a feel for in the first inning, maybe the second inning, if Max Meyer is able to command that sweeper. And it's just unusual, right? It's unusual for a guy in today's league, I think, even though we're seeing a lot more variability of pitches in certain counts. Guys are throwing 3-1 sweepers, 2-1 sweepers, and it's kind of unusual to see that. I look at a guy like Max Meyer, and by the way, the Mets lineup hasn't really been facing the hardest throwers in general in these first 11 games as well. They've been seeing a lot of junk ball guys, which can be kind of a blessing or a curse at the same time, depending on the strengths and weaknesses of the guys that you have in your order. But that's something that I wanted to point out with Max Meyer, to watch closely in this ball game, see how many, sweepers he's throwing, especially early in the count, as that is his favorite pitch to throw over the fastball.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting for sure. I want to see better. I want to see really. So what you're saying is they should go after his fastball, even though he throws that sweeper predominantly, like jump early in the count.
Well, first at bat through, you know what I would do? I wouldn't. If he throws a first pitch sweeper, I wouldn't even swing at it unless you are confident and you're guessing right on that pitch. But again, I hate to say, and even Keith Hernandez, you see this and
Mhm.
you hear this from Keith all the time. And this is where the game's kind of changed, especially since Keith has been playing, because like I said, there's a lot of pitches being thrown in different counts. And it used to be pretty much a standard, get the fastball over. Hopefully they miss, they foul it off, and then you're in a position to throw the off speed. I just can't justify, and you've played the game too, right? As a hitter, how many times up there, first pitch, were you looking for off speed? Like, how many times were you really guessing that? Because, on the off chance that he does throw a fastball and you're sitting on the breaking ball, there's no way to adjust backwards. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And that's why
exactly.
coaches tell you all the time, adjust off speed and set on the fastball no matter what the count is, and then you can always adjust better than, let's say, that in reverse order. So I wouldn't be looking for the off speed first pitch, even though he's probably going to throw that a lot of the time, especially the first time through. But maybe he changes up the game plan against the Mets lineup. Maybe he watched some film, and there's been a handful of times where Juan Soto on a pitcher's advantage count, especially against Biozo. I remember this vividly, where he threw him in the first at bat. He was up 1-2. As much of a junk baller as he is, he threw Juan Soto a 1-2 fastball, 90 miles per hour, that clearly Juan Soto was late on. A 90-mile-per-hour
And he
fastball.
moved
And
up
so
in the
that
box.
means he was guessing curveball or something slow.
And he also moved up in the box. Move up in the box as well, waiting, thinking the breaking ball was coming or off speed pitch was coming. And the 90 miles an hour, when you move up 2 to 3 inches in the batter's box towards the pitcher, that 90 miles an hour is probably 94, 95, realistically looking at it and being in the box. So
It's
yeah,
different.
I don't understand why they go backwards now, where they're looking for breaking ball off speed pitches. Like, I mean, maybe it's the new age of baseball and how they approach the at bat. But yeah, I was always looking for fastball, and you adjust to the breaking ball off speed pitch. That was how everybody learned. When I played, it's a little bit different, and well, it's a lot different now. So I don't know, but hitting's a lot more harder than I think it was when we played, or at least when I played, because I mean, again, they weren't throwing these sweepers, even though they're sliders, but like all these different type of pitches, knuckle curves, or the kick change, whatever, all that crap. But yeah, I just think it's a lot more harder to hit now, and these pitchers have like 47 pitches that they could throw, and they're throwing harder. Their their movement of pitches are a hell of a lot more than when I remember them
Yeah.
being moving around all the time. But at the end of the day, the Mets are 8-3. As much as we talked about some of the things that we dislike, 8-3 is where the Mets are, and kudos to them for finding a lot of ways to win despite the struggles of the offense. And they're here to sweep the Marlins today. They'll be the seventh win. They'll sweep the homestand before they head out west to Sacramento. Chris, your final thoughts, and what do you think Tyler McGill's line is going to be for today's game?
Give me an even 5 innings for Tyler McGill. I'll say 7 strikeouts for Tyler McGill, and just keep the team in the ball game. I think a couple earned runs is very realistic. Maybe he gets into a jam in the 5th inning, and that's when Carlos Mendoza, as he's done with all the previous pitchers, right, in this rotation so far this season, takes him out. But really, like I said, in that 4th inning is really when he hits a wall. So the 4th inning, if you can get beyond that, then I have very full confidence in him going into that 5th inning, as long as he is efficient in those first 4 innings with the pitch count. So we'll see how Mendoza starts to approach the rotation. We haven't really seen, if I'm not mistaken, anybody get up to 90 pitches, right? 90 and beyond. I don't think we've seen it.
I
You know
don't
what I mean?
remember seeing. I think Cannon maybe went like 84, 85, and that was in his second start. But other than that, I
I mean,
that was it.
there's been a handful of guys that have been throwing 89, but I don't think everybody, and anybody's been crossing that 90 pitch threshold. So, like Dwayne's saying in the chat too, Max Kranick will definitely be pitching today, 100%. I think maybe you'll see Ryan Stanek as well, because with how sharp he looked, closing out that ball game in game one. I'd expect to see a lot more out of Ryan Stanek in terms of the overall output and the innings pitch. So I think Kranick might be your first reliever. to follow Tyler McGill, and then we'll go from there. The bullpen's been pretty solid, but let's go get a sweep. Come on the post game and talk about a sweep. Edwin Diaz will also be available, and so I think the Mets are set up for success. Get the offense rolling again. They did it yesterday. Let's have back-to-back days where the offense looks competent, overly competent. You know what I mean? Put together good at-bats and good things will happen. And yeah, over under, I guess, one ball leaving the infield for Brett Beatty is what I'm watching out for too. So let's go get a sweep, and we'll see you all on the post-game stream.
There you go, guys. So we'll see you later on the post-game show. Thank you for tuning into the Amazing Mets pregame show on our channels and on X. McGill, Meyer on the mound. Hopefully we're talking about a Mets win and a Mets sweep. We'll see you later today, guys. Enjoy the game. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are real.